All right. Hello, everyone. It's so great to see all of you here with us today for our season 6 finale on navigating the internet. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, this will be in fact recorded following today's class. You'll have access to the recording. If you ever want to revisit any of the concepts that we described in the class today, we do have a lot to get through material that hopefully you'll find quite interesting. Before we get started, a few kind of housekeeping matters. I want to welcome everyone, whether this is your 100th class or your first class. We're so happy to have you here with us. We're trying out a new system with the live stream, so hopefully, if you do have any thoughts, please definitely send them to us following today's class. But we do want to thank our sponsors for today, Rachel Oppenheim and Bernice Kahn, who have contributed significantly to the program and this class overall. If you're interested in supporting our program and contributing to future classes, we hope you will visit our site, Mittler Senior Technology/sponsor, which I'll put up towards the end of the class as well, where you can contribute. And that's how we operate our courses. A lot of what we do is in fact free, like today's class. So we love to have sponsors contributing to our mission and allowing seniors really all across the globe to tune in and to learn how to use their computers and smartphones. With regard to announcements, we have some very exciting ones for today. So we hope you'll stay kind of towards the end of the class as when I'll announce those announcements, in particular our coursework and our classes for the upcoming summer. So hopefully you'll stay tuned. And once again, this is being recorded, so if you ever have to miss any piece of the content, you'll have access to it immediately following today's class. As usual, we like to open our classes by just stating our mission statement, which has really been the same since we started the class. Now the program is now about to hit into its 7th year, into its 7th season. And that is, it's really the responsibility of the younger generation to educate senior citizens about technology. The goal of the program really is to cure the issue of social isolation within senior communities and to help seniors feel connected with the whole new world of technology. And that's something that we've been striving to do really since day one. And as many of you know, thus far, we've really educated thousands of seniors, hitting on 3,500 seniors really across the globe in 10 different countries, and having taught over 450 classes. And we hope you'll stay tuned for more upcoming and exciting events in addition to this one as you stay involved with the program. So as mentioned, we do have a lot to get through today, so I do want to get straight into the material, which is navigating the internet. This work cloud in the air that gives us answers to questions. And hopefully I'll show you today not just what is the internet and really how it works, but we'll actually go into using the internet itself and using a tool that I'm sure you all are familiar with of Google, and how you can kind of get the answers to your questions really at your fingertips. So I guess to introduce the internet, we'll start kind of a very upper level definition, and then we'll get more and more specific as we move on. So if we start just kind of what you find in the dictionary for when you put in like a question for say of like, what is the internet? You'll usually get something that looks a little bit like this, which is the internet is a global network of billions of computers that makes it possible to access almost any piece of information, communicate with anyone, and do a lot more than that as well. And the internet has, like all technology, has continued to grow and expand even since over the past couple of years, 5-10 years. Who knows where this will be in a few years? I'm sure this class and a lot of what we cover won't even be applicable as technology moves so fast. But I guess to kind of bring things to a metaphor that hopefully will be helpful for you to understand the internet, I'm sure all of you have used something that looks just like this, an outlet, right? This is a wall outlet where you usually get electricity from, whether it's a light, a refrigerator, a television. Usually what you want to do is you plug it straight in and you get that electricity. But very not so often do people actually think about what happens when they plug that outlet into kind of the wall outlet, right? Anytime someone plugs a wire, they aren't like really thinking about what happens behind the scenes. And the reason why I mention this to you today is because that's similar to the internet as a whole, where we have this abstract concept where we keep putting in questions, we keep putting in websites, which we'll also define in a little bit, and getting all these results, but we're not really understanding what's happening when you click enter. When you put something in, what's really happening behind the scenes, the same way that a light or a refrigerator turns on when you plug it into an outlet. Now, typically, this is what someone will think of when they think of the internet. They'll think of a cloud, which despite us being in the world of cloud computing, you might have heard of the term iCloud, which is Apple's form of storing your information behind the scenes. really this is not a great depiction of what actually the internet is, because it's really too abstract. What does that mean? There's a cloud, there's something above us, there's something kind of not something we can connect to. So really let's dig a little bit deeper and see if we could define the internet on more of a low-level playing field, as opposed to this abstract cloud that we're all familiar with. I'm sure you've seen images like this before. So really, as a matter of fact, and you might be a little surprised by this, and that's okay for the beginning, the internet all comes down to a wire. Everything that you and I use on a daily basis to watch videos and to do online shopping and to ask our questions really all comes from a wire. And this wire is right below us. It's kind of deep under the ground. And it is, a matter of fact, this is the internet. Now let's build on this. Now you'll see that I added these two images connected to the internet. And these are types of computers that we're going to call a server. And servers are connected directly to the internet. You'll see that there's a direct attachment from each of these servers to the internet, which is what I'm referring to as the wire here. Now, these servers are not regular computers that you and I use, or the laptop that I have right in front of me now, but rather these computers are listening and responding to messages that can communicate with each other across the internet. So for example, web pages and files and even emails, these are things that travel through the internet from server to server. And that's why they have direct access to the internet. But I guess the real question is, how does a computer like mine, or an iPhone like yours, or an Apple Watch like yours, how do these devices connect? Because these are not servers. Even though these are types of computers, they aren't servers themselves. Now, here are just a few other types of servers. You'll notice that they each have this kind of long number below each one. And this is how we define a server. Each server has their own distinct number. But as you can imagine, and I'm assuming you're thinking of this, is how would you remember all these servers, considering there's definitely hundreds, maybe even thousands of servers out there, each having a different what we call an IP address, or a very long string of digits. And that's why back in the day they made it nice and easy for us and decided to rename these servers something like securitycatalyst.com or google.com or facebook.com or krispykreme.com, etc. Giving each of these servers a more specific and easy to remember what we'll call a web address, which we'll also define in just a little bit, giving you the ability to access these servers without having to memorize these long digits. Now, if we return back to our image, I've now given these two servers that we had originally some names. So this server up here, we're going to call AOL.com, which is an email provider. I'm sure many of you tuning in today have heard of the term and have used an email address of AOL.com. And then a more modern one, which is given to us through Google, is gmail.com. So you might have an email like jordan@gmail.com or something of the like. And then I've also added this additional image here, which I'm calling a client. Now that client is like me or you, right? That is the laptop, that is the phone, that is the device that you and I are very familiar with that we will use. And you'll notice that this device is in no way attached to the internet the same way that the servers are directly attached, which comes along to our question: how does a device like my laptop or your computer connect to the internet? And actually, it does something using what we call an ISP, or an internet service provider. Now, even if you haven't heard that term before, you will when I tell you that examples of ISP are Verizon Fios, Spectrum, AT&T, T-Mobile, any of these other kind of like Wi-Fi connections, which are basically middleman. They basically allow us to connect from our laptop or from our device directly to the internet itself. Which is amazing because as opposed to just kind of sitting on its own and not having any connection to the internet, an ISP or an internet service provider gives us access to connect both to it, and the internet service provider does, in fact, similar to a router, have direct access to the internet. So it's important to note that the ISP is how we connect to the internet. So I guess let's give a bit of an example. Let's say I wanted to browse AOL.com, right? I wanted to go onto my computer and I wanted to explore the website that you and I are very familiar with of AOL.com. Or how would I go about doing that? And I outlined it here in orange so it's very clear and visible. Is on my computer, I'll put in AOL.com, but I can't go there directly. I have to go straight through the ISP, the Internet Service Provider. And once I go through that, now I'm in the internet, right? Now I'm in the wire that we refer to as the internet. And now I can go wherever I want. I can go to Gmail. I can go to any of the other servers, Krispy Kreme, Security Catalyst. But in this case, I'm going to go straight up to AOL.com, giving me the access that I am in fact looking for, which is AOL.com. Now, let's give another example to really bring this down to practicality. If I had a second computer, let's say this is my friend and this is me, so I'm client 1 and my friend is client 2. I gave some numbers here, and I want to send an email to client 2, right? That's the goal here. I want to send an email that will be received by client 2. So let's kind of track through and see how we get the email from here up to here. So let's say for the purpose of the example, I have a Gmail account. So my email is jordan@gmail.com. And then my friend here has an AOL account. So his email hypothetically would be client2@aol.com. So I guess step one is I have to send the email. I have to initiate it because I'm the sender, right? So that happens first. So the first step, which is similar to what we just explored with AOL, is I want to go through my internet service provider right down over here, and I want to get to Gmail, right? Once I've gone into the internet, now I can go wherever I want. In this case, I have a Gmail account, so I want to go to the gmail.com server. And now that I've entered that server, now what I do is what you are very familiar with. You put in the send, you put in the subject matter, you put in the body of the message, and finally you click on send. You click on send to that message, and now the email, you'll see on your screen when you do it, your email has been officially sent to client2@aol.com. Now, how do we get the email from here, right? It's still here. Even though I've clicked on send, let's see what happens now. The email is sitting in the gmail.com server. How do I get it to client 2? Well, what you'll see now is the servers can communicate with each other through the internet. So what the email will do is it will go straight up to the internet and it will follow the orange line entering AOL.com. And this is step 2 of 3. We're almost there. The last step and the final step is bringing the email from AOL.com to client 2, which is the recipient. That's the person that we want to view the email. And you might be guessing kind of how are we going to get the email from here to here if the client 2 can't connect to the internet? And that is in fact similar to what we did here with client 1. Client 2 uses an internet service provider or Wi-Fi, whether that be Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, T-Mobile, AT&T, etc., whatever their connection may be, uses the internet service provider to view the internet, so to view the email. So it goes from AOL server into the internet service provider, and finally to client 2. So just kind of to recap here, we started at client 1. We wanted to send an email. So we went through the internet service provider. We went into the internet. We went to the Gmail server. Once we were in the Gmail server, we composed our message. We clicked on send. Once the email was sent, we went into the internet and we went straight to the AOL server, which is the recipient's server. And then once there, and the final step to get to the client is to use the internet service provider that you and I used originally to get to the client itself. So that, very simplistically, and a just really broad overview, is what happens underneath kind of the overall idea of the internet that we know of, how it really all traces back down to just a simple wire. And it's not really a cloud or an outlet or any of these kind of abstract concepts that maybe you and I have heard of or have heard people speak about, whether on television or in the news. But rather, it all comes down to just this wire and using servers to communicate with each other and using ISPs or internet service providers in order to connect our personal devices to the internet itself. So you now are in fact part of the top 10% of really people around the world who now understand the internet, not just from a how it works perspective, but really what happens kind of underneath the whole overview and the whole kind of front end display that we know of as Google or websites, etc. Now, a few of you might be concerned, as I was originally when exploring these topics, about safety. Because now that I've showed you that kind of the whole internet is intermingled with servers and ISPs, well, if I want to send an email, from client 1 to client 2, how do I ensure that it won't actually, accidentally end up in client 3's email address or client 4? Or if I'm buying tickets to, let's say, a movie, and I'm sending those tickets and my credit card information, to client one that is movie theater on, 70th Street. How do I ensure that that credit card information is not visible to the movie theater on 80th Street? Because everything's so kind of connected, how do I ensure that? And that, unfortunately, is not something that we'll have the opportunity to cover today, but it is an opportunity for me to kind of promote our online safety course, which really goes in depth into all these topics, including but not limited to strong passwords, spam and phishing, malware, safe online shopping, and browser tracking, all topics that are really, really important to be aware of. But now that you understand the internet behind the scenes, you'll actually have the ability to understand it on a more concrete level, and why, as I said, emails from client one go to client two and really don't go to anyone else. So I'd strongly encourage you to visit the site, and following the class today, I'll put up some of these links again so you don't have to jot it down right away. Okay, so the World Wide Web, which is now we're really reaching low-level more to the ground concepts as opposed to our beginning kind of abstract discussion. The World Wide Web is the information space on the internet where documents and other resources are stored. Now, even if you haven't heard the term World Wide Web before, you definitely have seen something that looks like this, which is our www, which usually appears towards the beginning of each web address, which once again we'll define in just a little bit. But the World Wide Web is where everything is stored on the internet, and you and I, even though there are other information spaces on the internet, for our purposes, I would say 99.9% of the sites and the uses for the internet that we will use fall under the domain of the World Wide Web. So there's really no need to learn about other information spaces. It's important to know the World Wide Web is really where you could trace back all the information that you and I use on a daily basis. Now, what is stored on the World Wide Web? I keep saying information space, but what does that mean? How do I have a physical space? And those spaces that you and I are familiar with, whether that be Amazon, Fresh Direct, Barnes & Noble, all those spaces that we browse through online, are defined as a website, which is the term that you and I use very frequently. And that's a specific place or an address on the World Wide Web where information can be shared. So a website is an example of one physical location on the World Wide Web, on the internet, where you and I could access some piece of information, or we could even share information like an email conversation. Okay, now we're actually getting very close to the front end, which is of you and I just opening up a laptop and sending a message or browsing through the internet. We're getting quite close to that. I would assume the next question that you would have would be, okay, now that we've defined websites and World Wide Webs, how do I approach a computer and actually browse through that website or explore it? And I'll define that here as an internet browser, which people tend to confuse with the internet itself. Internet browsers are not the internet. They're basically just your token or your key to accessing the internet. And here are just a few of the most common ones that are available nowadays. We have Google Chrome, which is brought to us by Google, Microsoft Edge by Microsoft, and I'll point out that was originally Internet Explorer, which is still available, but definitely much less common nowadays for PC users. Microsoft Edge is the relatively new Microsoft Internet browser. And then finally, if you're an Apple user, whether you be a Mac, iPhone, iPad, etc., you'll be using a tool called Apple Safari, which is Apple's form of an internet browser. And for today's purposes and for the demo that we're about to go down, we're going to be using Google Chrome, and the reason for that is simply because Google Chrome is accessible and usable by all devices. Rather, Microsoft Edge is relatively limited to PC computers, and Apple Safari limited to Apple computers. So to ensure that this will be kind of accessible and usable by all people joining us, whether you're an Apple or PC user, we're going to use Google Chrome as kind of our like main demo app for today. But once again, whether if you use the other tools, they're also very relatively similar, and the things that we discussed should still apply. Now, I guess one final thing beyond the actual internet browser is once you're on the internet browser, which we'll go into in just a second, usually you have to put in a web address, which is a relatively long piece of string of letters, www, dot, etc. And sometimes those are quite difficult to remember, even though they're already a simplification of what we originally defined as those long numbers, those IP addresses. But rather, recently there have been developments of what's called a search engine, which allows us to just put in keywords. So as opposed to having to put in like www.amazon.com/. Now you could really just simply put into a tool like Google, Bing, or Yahoo just the term Amazon, and it will bring you to that page as opposed to having to memorize the long address that you typically would have to put in if you were just searching through a browser without using a search engine. And that's why search engines are so popular, because you're able to just simply put in questions directly into these search engines, as opposed to having to go to a browser itself and memorize many long addresses, which as you begin to use more and more websites, you'll have a long list to actually remember. And once again, similar to Google Chrome, we'll be using Google as kind of our main demo for today because it is more common. First of all, it's relatively the most popular tool, and it's also applicable to all devices, whether you are an Apple or PC user. Now, I kept mentioning this term web address, which is what you would put into the top of a web browser in order to find the information on the internet. And this is relatively what that would look like. This is a kind of a very simple outline of what a web address would hypothetically look like. And I've color-coded it into 4 sections to kind of briefly explain what each one is and what the different parts are. So starting from the beginning, we have https://. Now, this is actually the least important one because as technology has developed, all websites tend to start with this or similar to this beginning, and therefore the internet has developed itself in a way where you could basically just skip this and go straight to the second part of the web address, and you'll still get to the same results. Literally, the only reason why I wanted to mention it to you today, and this goes along our discussion earlier of online safety and why it's important to take that course that I mentioned as opposed to simply because we don't have enough time today to go into all the information, is because of this S right over here, which stands for safe or safety or even secure, whichever one you want to choose. But that S will not always be there. And it's important to recognize and to kind of check when you are browsing through websites that you do in fact see that S, simply to ensure that the site that you are browsing through is a safe and secure website. So if you just see HTTP, it's a good idea to get off that website because it really doesn't have the security and the safety that these other websites do. Typically, when you're exploring popular websites like Amazon and Apple and Outlook and email providers like Gmail and AOL, those should be fine. You don't really have to check. But when you are searching on a kind of unfamiliar website, it is important just to ensure that you do see that S at the top of the screen, ensuring that the website is in fact safe and secure. Now, what's next? We have www. Which you should now be very familiar with, stands for World Wide Web. And like I mentioned, there are other host names, there are other information spaces on the internet that are available. But for the purpose of you and even I, www should cover all our use cases. Everything that we need should fall under the roof of the World Wide Web. So there isn't really much to figure out. And also, similar to the HTTPS, websites have been developed in a way where you could even start after the www, so just kind of the second half of the web address, and still get the result that you are in fact looking for. Now, next up, it's our third of 4, our green. And I wrote example here, but this could really be anything. This is like the website name. It usually tells you which company owns the site. So here are just a few examples, whether that be Google or Apple or Wikipedia. Those are just 4 of the really hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands websites that are out there. And usually the website name will be sandwiched by the www, which is as we define the World Wide Web, and this fourth part, which I'll mention in just a second. But once again, the green literally stands for the website name, and it's a good place to look if you want to see what is the website that I'm browsing, meaning who owns this website. Is it Apple? Is it Google? Usually you want to look there at that third category. And then finally, the final component is what we call the domain, usually one of the most important parts. And this you cannot leave out. So you can't just put in just the first 3 or even kind of 1 or 2 of the options. You want to ensure that you're putting in the domain as well, because that really tells you the type of the website. So in this case, .com stands for commercial business. Which is a relatively common domain, but there are some other ones, including .org, .edu, and .gov. .org for organizational websites, .edu for educational institutions, and .gov for government sites. Something I will mention, first of all, there are hundreds and hundreds of other domains. You're not going to be limited to just seeing these four, even though these four tend to be some of the common ones that you will see. But I do want to mention that .edu and .gov have restrictions on who can use them. So for example, if I wanted to create a website that had the domain .edu, I would have to actually prove that I'm an educational institution. Or if I wanted to use .gov, I would have to prove that I'm a government site and I'm creating a website for government purposes. And therefore, if you do see .edu or .gov, that's actually a good fact checker in order to verify that the website is in fact legitimate, because kind of some scam that tries to create some fake educational institution won't be able to get access to the .edu domain because he or she would have to verify and go through all these policies in order to obtain that domain. So it's definitely not a complete giveaway, but it's definitely an important kind of notifier to check your domain to ensure that the website is in fact like an actual legitimate site. So educational institutions should all finish with .edu and same with .gov. But like I said, there are really hundreds of domains out there beyond the four that you see on the screen. So if we put this all together, this is our web address, which is kind of like the address like you have of an apartment building or of your house, but you have the opening HTTPS, which once again, you can usually disregard this S being important to notify whether or not the website is in fact safe. We have www, which is the World Wide Web. That's the host name or the space on the internet, kind of where things are stored. But like I said, this is the common one that you'll see quite often. And like I said, everything up to this point can really be discarded when you're browsing through the internet because of how frequent these two terms are used in most website cases. Then we have the example, which is the website name, whether that be Google, Apple, Microsoft, Outlook, etc. And then finally, we finish off, which in this case is .com, but could range anywhere from .org, .edu, .gov, to even .us or .fr for specific locations, which you'll find also relatively frequently. So this is the web address. And now when we actually use the internet and we use search engines, you'll notice how we don't have to put in the web address each time you want to find a website, but rather you could just simply use keywords, which tend to come from the green part. So if I had https://www.amazon.com, and I was using a search engine, I could actually disregard most of what's on the screen and just use Amazon. But if I was searching in the web browser, I would have to include almost the entirety, but you could really disregard these first two halves, but you do need to ensure that you have the domain. Okay, so let's now actually get into the internet itself. Now that we've defined all the terminology and we understand how it works, let's actually get into what you could do online, what you could do using the internet. And online, as you've heard, is a very frequent term that refers to going on the internet or online. Now, there are kind of a few main buckets that I'll put in terms of what can you do online. The first and most popular literally being to find information. That is the most popular use of the internet. With billions of websites available online today, there is really a lot of information on the internet. And you're able to really find answers to any question that you are looking for simply by opening up and browsing the internet, as opposed to what you used to do, which is you had to call someone, you had to go to a library, you had to really find that information physically, as opposed to now, which literally at your fingertips, you have access to dozens and dozens, hundreds, billions of pieces of information that allow you to access tons of information. Now, another big use case is communication, which is typically kind of drawn back to email, which is the demonstration we used earlier when we were learning about servers and the internet service providers. But communication kind of comes down to email, which is literally a way to send and receive messages across the internet. Then we have social networking, which is a bit more modern. And that is how to connect and share with family and friends online. It's a little bit different than email and message because social networks really make it easy to connect and share with many people at the same time, as opposed to email and messages, which are relatively limited in terms of how many people you could share your information with at one time. Some examples of social networks that you might be familiar with or have heard of at least are Facebook, Instagram, X, which used to be Twitter, much more like LinkedIn and even WhatsApp are all fall under the category of social networking. Next up, we have online media, which really falls into the category of entertainment. And that's, watching videos, listening to music, whether that be YouTube, Netflix, Spotify, Pandora, really the whole list goes on, and it's continuing to be more and more developed. But people tend to kind of draw their attention to the internet as well for online media or entertainment purposes. And finally, and kind of, I guess, what kind of ties everything together is everyday tasks or like errands that you can now do literally online at your fingertips, as opposed to having to kind of go out and do them on your own. Some examples may be online banking, whether you're managing your bank account, you want to pay your bills, make a deposit, all that can now be done online, as well as online shopping. You don't really have to enter a physical store anymore. But you could really just, out of convenience, go on your device, whether that be your computer, your laptop, your phone, and be able to online shop directly from the comfort of your home. So once again, I've kind of bucketed it into 5 different categories, but these are the main uses of what you could do on the internet, whether that being finding information, communication, social networking, online media, and everyday tasks. And now I guess the exciting part is let's actually open up the internet browser that I mentioned we were going to use, which is Google Chrome, and begin to explore some of the exciting use cases of the internet. So let's pull this up. Okay, here we go. So you're now looking at Google, which, as I mentioned, is kind of one of the most popular search engines that are out there. And you'll notice kind of a few important pieces of this screen. The first being all the way at the top of the screen is kind of the internet browser search bar, which is different than the search engine search bar, which you'll find over here. But we have the internet browser search bar, which you'll find towards the top of the screen. And you'll see I pulled up Google, and you'll notice that it says google.com into this web browser, which is in fact the website that I was looking for. And you'll notice that if I go here and I change that to be https://www.google.com, which is now the full web address for what I'm looking for, and hit enter, once you get to that same site. And you'll notice if I just put in google.com, without including that beginning piece, I've gotten to that same place. Now, there are a few important buttons found at the top of the screen. This is kind of called the tab bar, which you'll see right now. I have Google, which is the tab that I'm currently looking at. But very often you have multiple things that you are browsing through, and you'll notice that right next to the tab that you're looking at, there's a little plus icon, which allows you to add an additional tab. So if I tap on that, you'll notice that now I have 1 tab and 2 tabs, which gives me access to 2 different sites on the internet, and I could very easily switch between the 2 by literally tapping on this one or going back and tapping on that one. So I could be browsing through Amazon, watching a video on Netflix, and sending an email all on 3 different tabs at the same time, as opposed to having to open up my email, kind of start writing it and sign out, then open up the Netflix, then go back, etc. But you could really spread your computer having multiple tabs, and it's very easy to close those tabs just by using the X next to 1 tab. It will scratch that, and you'll be left with the 1 remaining tab that you do in fact have. Now you'll also notice that there's a back and a forward and a refresh button, 3 important buttons that you'll find over here at the top left of the screen. And this allows you to go back and forth. So for example, if I put in Amazon.com into my search bar over here, and you'll see I've been taken to kind of the Amazon sign-in page. But if I want to go back to the original page, which in this case was Google, I can go ahead and tap on the back arrow, which is the arrow pointing towards the left. And that will take me straight back to where I initially started, which is in fact Google. And if I realize, oh no, I want to go back to Amazon, I can now tap on the right button, which will take me now back to Amazon. Now, often, and this tends to be a technical issue that people tend to have, is their page starts running a bit slowly, or it tends to start glitching, which means that things aren't moving as smoothly as they would like to, or they open up a page and it's something that they're not interested in looking at. Usually, and this is the first tip I usually tell seniors, is to go to that refresh button and basically just click on it, which will basically bring you right back to that same page, but it tends to reset whatever it is that's going on at the time. So if something's being downloaded that maybe I didn't intend to download, or something's playing that I didn't intend for it to play, usually, and this doesn't work all the time, but it's a good tip to know of, by just tapping on the refresh, which is the little kind of half circle with the arrow. If you tap on that, it will refresh the page, bringing it back to its initial web address, which in this case is just Amazon.com. So it's important to know that you could use that tool as well as the back arrows to return back and forth from pages and to refresh pages to ensure that you're looking at what you are in fact interested in browsing through. So let's give this a try. Before I get to the actual search engine search bar, if I go to the top here, which is the internet browser search bar, and once again, I'm in Chrome, but this works in all internet browsers, whether that be Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, or Apple Safari. And I'm going to go ahead and type in a website called allrecipes.com. I'll put in the www for the purpose of making things consistent. And you'll see I put in www.allrecipes.com, which is a website common for finding information about different websites, finding different recipes that you could use. And I'm going to go ahead, once you finish typing in the web address, you click on the return or enter key, which is found on your keyboard. And once you go ahead and tap on that, you'll notice that I'm taken directly to the website itself. Which is in fact allrecipes.com. You know you're in the right place usually because you see a logo of that sort up at the top of the screen, and you also have some additional links and usually an additional search bar, which allows you to search directly in the content of the website as opposed to having to search up here, which gives you access to the entire internet. Rather, once you know that what you're looking for is in fact on the All Recipes website, it's really smart to first go to the All Recipes website or .com, whatever it may be, and then use the search bar up here to find exactly what you're looking for. So I would put in here like an example of a recipe. Now, once again, if I wanted to go back to my initial page, which was Google, I go ahead and tap on that arrow, bringing me back to the Google homepage here. Now, as opposed to having to type in www.allrecipes.com, what I could do is I could use Google search bar, which is found here in the middle of the page, simply by going to www.google.com, or even something you could do, which is a bit more technical, is set it up so that when you open up the internet, Google is the first page that you see, which you could do behind the scenes, makes it quite easy. I could simply put in here the term recipes, which is the kind of just the term here, as opposed to all recipes. But maybe I haven't heard of that website before, and I don't know that that's the website that I am in fact looking for. So I can go ahead and just put in a keyword such as recipes here, and I'll also point out that you'll notice that I haven't clicked on enter yet, but a bunch of recommended searches have come up for me, whether it be just recipes alone, recipes with ground beef, recipes for dinner, recipes with chicken, etc. And these are taken from what people tend to type in following the word recipes. So in the world, when people put in the word recipes, I guess the top 10 to 15 results that people tend to search for are the results here, making it easy for you. So as opposed to having to type in the full with ground beef, you can basically just click on the recommended or the suggested search item, and it will take you directly there by tapping on that second item. But for the time being, I just want recipes, so I can go ahead and tap on the first, or just click on return or enter. And you'll notice that, as a matter of fact, the first kind of hyperlink, or the first website that I'm taken to, is the All Recipes website that we just looked at a few minutes ago. Now, it tends to be that the most popular are usually the most accurate based on your keyword or towards the top of the screen. So All Recipes is projected to be the most relevant to the search keyword that I put in. Usually, if you don't see something that you're looking for in the top 5 to 7 search results, you want to refine your search keyword in order to ensure that you're actually finding what you're looking for. But let's say I didn't want All Recipes, you could scroll down. Eats, half-baked harvest, etc. But once again, for the purpose of today, you could just use the first or the second if you don't really care, or you're not looking for something directly. Meaning, in this case, I'm just looking for a site to find websites. I don't care a site to find recipes. I don't actually care what type of recipe or where it actually is coming from. Now, if for say I tapped on All Recipes, which is the first site here, and you know that it's a hyperlink, which means a link that you can click on to view more information, because when I bring my mouse, you'll see that it underlines the term, meaning that it's something that I can click on and it will bring me to some tool, as opposed to this word techniques here, which when I bring my mouse to, nothing will happen if I click on it. But once again, you want to be aware, and this you'll kind of tend to pick up on as you browse through the internet more and more, is how to find these hyperlinks, how to find things that you can go ahead and click on. So I'll go ahead and tap on all recipes. And once again, I've been brought here. If I realize this is a website that I'm not interested in browsing and I want to see what the second or third option may or may not be, I can go ahead and tap on the back button, which will bring me back, not to Google this time, but back to that initial page over here. Now I'll go ahead and tap on all recipes again. And as I was mentioning, hyperlinks are these different keywords and buttons on your screen that allow you to find different pieces of information on the site. And usually you find them by some sort of animation, whether that being an underline or a bold or a different color change. So you'll notice here the words dinners, meals, ingredients, occasions, and a bunch more. And you'll see if I bring my mouse there, those words not only now underline, but they also give me additional options, which imply that these are in fact buttons that I can go ahead and click on and will take me to something else. It will take me on this basically hunt of what I'm looking for. So if I knew, for example, I wanted to find a recipe for dinner, I would then bring my mouse to dinner, and you'll see there are now more options, quick and easy, 30-minute meals, and a bunch more different options as well. Now let's go back to the Google page, which is where we initially were over here. And I'll point out kind of a few additional kind of good tips that you should be aware of when using the Google keyword tool or the search engine bar over here. So for example, if I wanted to be a bit more specific and I put in something like recipe chocolate chip cookies, and I'll add the word easy because I want it to be an easy recipe, as well as under 30 minutes. I only have 30 minutes to make this batch of cookies. So I figured that this was all relevant piece of information. I want a recipe. I want it to be for chocolate chip cookies, not any other type of cookies. I want it to be an easy recipe that I could do relatively simply, not have complicated ingredients, and I want it to take under 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on return here. And now my search results are much more specific. As opposed to just being general recipe websites, I've found specific recipes of chocolate chip cookies that tend to be under 30 minutes as well as easy. Now, if I didn't know what I wanted to cook, going to a website like All Recipes would be a smart decision because it allows me to find a bunch of different types of recipes. But if I knew that I wanted a chocolate chip cookie recipe, it actually does make sense to use the Google search bar and to find more specifically what it is that you're looking for by just putting in keywords there. Now, a tool that actually a lot of people don't know about is a few kind of niche little things that you could add to your keyword up here to make the search results more and more specific. Because you'll notice this one says 30-minute, which was great. This one doesn't. This one does not as well, and there's some more results that you'll find below here. So if I wanted to ensure that the search results were exactly what I was looking for, you want to be a little more specific in your search keyword. So for example, if I put in up here, recipes sugar cookies, and before I click enter, I'll just point out, this is 3 words that I've put in, right? Recipes, sugar, cookies. Now, if I wanted to ensure that the results for the recipes I'm getting are not maybe just sugar or just cookies, but rather only recipes where the 2 words appear together. So whether it will be recipes where sugar and cookies appear next to each other, a tool you could use is quotation marks, which you could add before and after the phrase that you want to highlight. So for example, if I add a quotation mark after the word sugar cookies as well as right before, now what will happen is the only results that I will see will be results that have the word sugar and cookies together, ensuring that these results are really exactly what I'm looking for, and it's when the 2 results are found together. So now if I click on enter, you'll notice that all these results have the phrase sugar cookies, sugar cookies, sugar cookies, and even if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, where usually the results are not directly matched to what you put in, you'll only find results that have those 2 words together, which is definitely a very helpful tool. One other tool I'll mention of a cool thing you could do in the search bar is the hyphen, which is for getting rid of a word. So for example, if I wanted to make recipes for cookies, but I'm allergic to chocolate, so I can have any type of cookie except chocolate, I can go ahead and put straight in recipes, cookies, and as opposed to putting in chocolate, what I could do now to ensure that the search results have no options that have the word chocolate in it is simply put a hyphen straight before the word chocolate. And this will actually allow me to ensure that my results have the word recipes, have the word cookie, but do not have the word chocolate. And you'll notice now that none of the results, no matter how far I scroll down, have the word chocolate. They're vanilla sugar, snickerdoodle, cookies with banana and maple syrup, really allowing me to ensure that I don't use the word chocolate in that search bar. So that's definitely helpful if you have something you want to find and you want to eliminate, or you want to make sure that this specific search term like chocolate doesn't appear in your search term. And this hyphen and these quotes allow you to really be more specific in terms of what it is that you're looking for. Okay, a few other things I'll point out. You'll notice right below the search bar, there's a few other options that you'll find. Right now, we've selected all, and you know that because it's highlighted in a slight gray color. But you'll notice next to all, there's also options for images, videos, forum, shopping, and even more. You'll find even more additional options here, which just allows you to search within Google under a specific umbrella. So if you know you only want to find pictures as opposed to searching under the all category, it might make sense to go straight to images to ensure that your search results align with what it is that you're trying to find. And this actually changes. This toolbar, as we call it, changes depending on your search term. So for example, let's make this more simplistic. If I just put in cookies here and click on return, you'll see it says all images, shopping, videos, forums, and more, because it tends to be cookies, they tend to find images, maybe they want to shop for cookies. But if I change this cookies to maybe Central Park, which is a location, you'll notice that now I have an additional term that says maps. I don't see shopping anymore because it's refined those results in order to align with what it is that you're trying to find. So it will actually be more and more specific. So if I go, let's say, to images, which is the second option over here, and I put in our first term, which we did was recipes, and I put in sugar cookies, this time in quotation marks, to ensure that all the results I'm looking for do in fact resemble sugar cookies. Here are all the results I have here. And now you're only looking at images. Very often these images will direct you to a website where you can find more information like a recipe. But in this case, all I'm doing, and you can scroll and find more and more, is finding many different images of sugar cookies, all of which have the word sugar and cookies together. Now I could refine this search even more by clicking on the option that says tools over here, found right under the little magnifying glass. And you'll see it will give me a bunch of different options. You could definitely explore a bunch of these on your own. The only one I will point out today is color. So if I, for example, change color from any color, which is the default, to let's say a specific one, let's say like pink, now my results will not only be recipes that have sugar cookies together, but now I'll be able to find images of pictures of sugar cookies that only align with the color pink, which you'll see now are the results of my search term, which I now have hundreds of images of pink sugar cookies. And because I included the word recipes, it's actually ideal and most likely that these images will direct you to websites themselves. So if I hypothetically clicked on this image over here, it will show it to me a little bit bigger so I can read more about the image. And right under the image, you'll find a button that says visit, which allows you to actually click on and explore the website of the image itself. So now I found the image, and you'll see if you scroll down, there's more information about the cookies themselves. It looks like this is a recipe website as well. And once again, in my tab bar, to go right back to where I was, I can close out of that tab to enter the original tab that I was looking at, and I could also go back and forth to find more and or less. And once again, if I were to change the search bar to Central Park, which is more commonly used for the location purposes as opposed to cookies, which may be for shopping or recipes, I found pictures here, but I can go ahead and tap on another of these options, which may be maps. And it will not only show me images, but show me where on a map the place that I am referring to is located. So there you go, there's Central Park, more images. You can even find directions. This is not a class on maps. We do have that available, so I won't go too much in depth into this. But this is just to show you that beyond images, beyond maps, there are many, many other kind of features, and I'm going to go back right here using the back bar, under the search term that allow you to find what you're looking for. And like I said, this keeps changing depending on what it is that you are trying to find. And some of the last things that I'll show you before we begin to conclude the class today is in the search bar itself, and I'll go back to all, so we are looking at everything all together, is I can put in some niche kind of specific search terms that will allow you to find some pretty cool things. So if I put in something like food near me, and you'll see that if I click on enter, you'll see that it says results for Manhattan, New York, because Google, over the time that I've used it, knows where I am in fact based and located, and therefore the places and the recommendations for what it will give me are geared and relevant to where I am in fact based. And you could obviously change that, and it will differ from wherever you are located around the world. But you could use the term near me, really following any sort of sentence, whether it be food near me, coffee near me, even gas near me, restaurants near me, things like that, to really find what you're looking for that is really relevant to where you are based. I could do something very nice, like very simple math calculations. So if I put in something like, if I put in, let's say, if I put in, let's say, just very simply 3 plus 5, you'll notice that as opposed to giving me just websites in this case, which will direct me to something further, I've been given this calculator panel, which allows me to view the result. Not only that, but I could then put directly in and add on to that. So I could then add to the 8, I could add 8 plus, and then do 3, and you'll see that it's actually going to continue to follow along those lines, which is giving me more and more information, and it's storing the original calculation that I added. You could do something like conversions if you want to do, put something like 5 kilometers to mile. You'll see not only will it give you, once again, those search results, but it will also give you this little black box here, which allows you to find information about how to convert from unit to unit. So Google has all these kind of built-in features that allows you to figure out a lot of this information without having to open up the website. Same with the term weather, as opposed to having to go to a website, which may be weather.com, which you can scroll down to find. You are given a lot of information simply at the top of the Google screen. And you'll see that it, once again, gives me the location that I'm based in, as weather is relevant to location. But I could very easily change that to weather Florida. And now it will adjust from research results about New York to now about Florida or wherever else you might be looking for. And then finally, if I put in something like, if I want to find directions from one place to another, I can go ahead and put in something like may lead to Asheville. And you'll notice that I've been given, even without opening up Google Maps, you'll notice that it gave me the recommendation. It gave me the idea to click on maps to find more information, but even built directly into Google, I've got information about the 2 locations, different methods of transportation, how long it will take me to get there, what is the distance from location A to location B, as well as much more here as well. So it's important to note that as you begin to use Google and use these search engines more and more, you'll find these convenient tools built directly into the search engine that allow you to find information about what you're looking for, as opposed to having to scroll down and open up a website itself, which you very well can do. But Google has, and many other search engines have designed these tools to really give you all the information really at your fingertips, making it quite easy to find information and find answers to your questions. Okay, so as we conclude the class today with only a few minutes left, I ask that everyone does stay on the call today, really until we finish up, and we'll be done in just a few minutes. But as this concludes our season 6 finale, this concludes a whole year of coursework that we've been offering. I do want to kind of give some concluding remarks and what we have upcoming for the summer. So first being, over the past year, we've done a lot. We have taught 11 live classes, released 34 Tech to Tuesday videos that you've all hopefully been receiving to your email and WhatsApp communications. On our YouTube and social media platforms, we've had over 12,000 views from seniors all across the globe in 15 countries now. And finally, we've had 12 sponsors that have dedicated kind of their energy and effort to the program, allowing us to continue doing what we love to do, which is really educating seniors across the globe on how to understand these very confusing technological concepts, including what you learned today being the internet. So this is just some of what we accomplished over the course of the year, and I strongly encourage you to kind of go onto our site and our YouTube to find more and to browse through all the exciting content that we released over the course of the year. Now, before we get into the final announcements about the summer, I do want to point out a few of our graduating team members that have given a lot to the team as a whole, and we'll be moving on to other exciting things in the future. The first being Amiel Lowe, who is our head of content development, who is graduating this year from high school, who's contributed a lot to what you do see on the screen, the classes that you do look at, and what it is that we teach in terms of choosing the content, designing the lessons, and really orchestrating that entire process. So we do thank Amiel for what he's given to the team and Mittler Senior Technology as a whole. We have Jordana, who this past year was the head of social media. So everything that you do see on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all those platforms that you in fact do use, she's really been kind of the main source in making sure that all the information that we have gets out to you really in a convenient manner. And we thank her for doing all those work as well. And we have Rachel Abelson, who was our head of marketing this year, and not only assisted Jordana with social media, but also led our Tech to Tuesday series and designed a lot of the cool content and flyers that you see on social media. And Rachel, as well as our final team member, Daniel, will be joining Mittler Senior Technology as an advisor next year, who will be staying involved with the program and helping us out in any way she can to ensure that we're able to have as many hands on deck. And that people could stay involved even after their graduation. And finally, we have Daniel Martin, who also will be taking on the role of an advisor following season 6. Daniel only joined the team I would say maybe a year and a half ago now, but has taken on a lot of responsibilities, including head of growth, as well as co-director of our Spanish programming, which some of you have benefited from, and actually is one of our biggest and most viewed videos on our YouTube page is our Spanish class taught a few months ago. Daniel spearheaded that entire project. And he also has been kind of a nice force in terms of growing the program, not just beyond the seniors and the members that have used us for years, but also new senior citizens, new nursing homes, new community centers. And Daniel also will be continuing to work with us over the summer as well as an advisor into next year. And we want to thank him as well as all our team members for the effort that they've contributed to the program and what they've done over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, as we continue to grow the program and make it more and more exciting for you. Now, I guess the exciting part of this is what's upcoming, what's happening this summer. And we have 4 main offerings for things that we're offering for you to browse through over the course of the summer. We hope you'll take advantage of them and considering exploring some of the content that maybe you haven't yet checked out. And I guess the 2 main ones tend to be our computer and smartphone basics class, as well as our advanced computer and smartphones class, which you could access through this link over here, mittlersenior.technology/class-info, a link that I'll put up once again at the end of the class today, where you could find information about all our courses. Our computer and smartphone basics class is a 10-lesson course that covers all the fundamentals of how to use a computer and smartphone in the 21st century, including the internet, but it really includes all these different technology concepts, both on your smartphones and on your computers. And I strongly encourage you to take this course if you have not done so yet. I teach this class. I recorded it a couple years ago, and it's been taken by thousands of seniors across the globe, really giving them their first insight, their first introduction into the world of technology. For those of you that do feel more confident or have already taken our basics class, I encourage you to check out our advanced computers and smartphones class, which you could also access through the link below here, which gives you access to a wide array of courses and topics that expect you to know what's covered in the basics and build on those topics by giving you more insight into tools such as the internet, social media, online banking, online shopping, entertainment online, and really much more. So these are our 2 flagship courses, and I strongly encourage all of you to sign up today through mittlersenior.technology/class-info. I'll also put up an email address at the end of the class where you can send any questions you have. We're happy to jump on a call or Zoom with you to help you get set up with these classes if that would be of help. Now, 2 additional services that we also offer that we released just this past year and are about to finish their first year in action is our Top 10 series, which is a selection of 10 of our kind of top 10 courses that we've offered that have been taught just like this live on Zoom. And these recordings, which are no longer available to the public on our YouTube, are available in our Top 10 series, which through the same link you could access and enroll in that course as well. This class, as a matter of fact, will be uploaded following today's class to our Top 10 series, really making your Top 11, giving you access to a whole array of different courses that you could explore through the Top 10 series. And then finally, our Tech Concierge program, which also was released just this past year, gives you the ability to have 24/7 unlimited email tech support from our team, where by enrolling in the program, At any point throughout each month, you have the ability to send your questions to our email address, and they will be sent to you either in an explanation, if it's doable to be done that way, or even through a video tutorial explaining the concepts that you might find confusing. So that allows you to kind of more hands-on tech support if you do have specific questions or issues with your own devices, personal at home, as opposed to our other services, which are more class, kind of community-oriented. So once again, computer and smartphone basics is kind of Mittler Senior Tech 101, giving you really the foundation on how to use these devices. We have our advanced computers and smartphone class, which give you insight into the world of advanced computing, showing you how to use a lot of tips and techniques that might not be covered in the fundamental class, but once you understand those basics, are much easier to process. We have our top 10 series, which allows you to explore some of our top 10 favorite courses that we offer live on Zoom, which you can access through that series. Now, as I said, top 11 due to this class today. And finally, our Tech Concierge program, which allows you to get kind of hands-on email tech support, literally 24/7 from members of our team, which have been professionally trained to answer your questions and give you answers to whatever technical concerns you are interested in finding out information about. And finally, before we do wrap up today, we are a program that operates based on your support and your contributions, and a few ways that you can contribute. First being, and I guess the thing that we strongly encourage you to do, is to purchase one of our classes or services that I just spoke about, which will give you the ability to explore a wide array of very fascinating technology topics. And you can do that kind of through the link, which I'll put up again. You can email us as well. Secondly, as Bernice and Rachel did for today's class, sponsoring an upcoming live class or Tech Tip Tuesday, and we actually accept donations as low as $50, however much you would like to contribute to sponsor one of our upcoming live classes or Tech Tip Tuesdays, which you could do directly through this link found below. And I guess finally is spreading the word. Our biggest concern is that there are seniors out there that really don't know about the service that we offer. And even a lot of our services are free. So finances should really never be a hesitation to participate. And we want to ensure that all seniors around the world know about the program and can benefit from our services. So we strongly encourage you to spread the word about the program, especially if you find it beneficial for your lives. I'm sure there are many friends and family members around the world that would also benefit as well. So once again, purchasing one of our classes and services, sponsoring an upcoming class or Tech Tip Tuesday, and spreading the word are really how you can contribute to our mission of really changing the lives of seniors across the globe. And you could do that through this link, which I'll put up once again down over here, our class info link, our donation link, as well as our email address, info@mittlerseniortech.com, for any further questions that you have either about today's class, the programming and services, or anything Mittler Senior Tech related as a whole. So once again, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today for this exciting class on navigating the internet. I hope everyone has an amazing summer and takes advantage of all our amazing classes and services. This is the end, and bye-bye for now.